Welcome, everyone. People will be piling in as we begin and start here. Thank you for taking your afternoon, early afternoon, first half of your lunch with us. Uh, Feel free to introduce yourself, please, into the chat as we go through this. We really want to make connections with organizations in your area. So, and we like to know on our side who's joining the calls. So we look at these logs afterward. So introduce yourself. We'd love to know how to contact you and what your organization is all about. All right. Forward thinking, welcome. A little note about Forward Service Corporation. We are dedicated to helping people find meaningful work. Uh, we do that through a number of supportive services and benefit programs. We are dedicated to meeting people where they are. Any person that we both serve, we have a conversation, ask them what their specific needs are, and get them connected with the resources that they need, either through our offerings or through our partners like you. So we're glad you could be here today. Feel free to scan the code at the bottom of any one of our slides to get connected to our website and reach out to us with any questions, suggestions, or referrals of people that might benefit from both of our services. If you've joined us in the past, you know me well. My name is Landon Solano. I am a communications specialist here at Forward Service Corporation. I host these lunch and learns, these forward thinking sessions. If you have any questions about how these operate, please always feel free to email me. My email address is here. We will provide you these slides afterward so that you can have them for reference. And with that, a note that today's session is being recorded. It will be provided to you on probably Tuesday of next week. A little bit late this time. I'm heading out of the office, so it'll be a little delayed, but you'll get the video of today's session next week. Sorry, there's a loud truck going by right now. You'll also get a PDF of today's slide deck, along with the slide deck of our presenter today, our speaker that we've invited, as well as a list of our FSC offices throughout the state so that you can find local offices near you. Just a note, if you are interested in any of these topics but can't attend one of these sessions in the future, you can still RSVP, and that puts you on the list to receive all of these materials following the session. So we want to make sure that you get what you need. This is not an exclusive deal. So if you're interested in a topic, RSVP, we'll make sure that you get a copy of the session. We also have a playlist of all of our previous sessions on YouTube, which you can find by following the QR code at the bottom of this page. Okay, today we're talking about fatherhood in Wisconsin. Earlier this year, we talked about resources for mothers, how to support them, and equally important, we're talking about resources for fathers. We've invited Fatherhood in Wisconsin. It's a UW extension program, which our speaker will go into much more expertise about than I will. But just to give you a sense of what we'll cover today, there are classes in education for fathers out there, parental resources. We're going to address a little bit the importance of addressing fatherhood issues, and the needs assessment to figure out exactly what each person, the sorts of resources and help that each person might need. So without further ado, I want to ask you all a question. What percentage of you, or I guess you're going to answer yes or no. Let me start the poll here. How many of you have served someone that has needed fatherhood specific resources or help? How many people have you served that have parental or child support or any kind of fatherhood resources that can help them find a living wage or just get stabilized, work with I'm overstating the point. You get the question. We'll just give this a few seconds to have y'all be able to answer. And while you do that, I'm going to see if I can't turn my videos on so I can see everyone. Okay. So it looks like an overwhelming share of you say that you've worked with people that need some sort of father specific resources. And I'm going to show the results here. 76% actually said that. There's 6% I don't know, which, I think is curious what our today's speaker has to say about uh, the stigma around fathers perhaps not wanting to ask for help or not knowing that they need fatherhood specific help. So let's get on to introducing our speaker today. She's going to be talking about fatherhood in Wisconsin. Patricia Carroll, she's Associate Professor of the Department of Family Development, Human Development, and Relations Educator at UW-Madison Division of Extension. Patty, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you so much for being here. What can you tell us about fatherhood in Wisconsin and all of the things that we need to know?
Thanks, Landon. I am so thrilled to be here. And just with a thumbs up, Landon, can you see my screen and hear me okay?
Yes. Yep. Looks great.
Great. So I am here. I want to discuss with you all as practitioners and people who are family serving agency professionals information about our fatherhood program. Let me see if I can drop into chat. Maybe I will do that towards the end of my presentation.
I'll throw the links in there.
Our website that will give more information about the specific classes and this report. But I want to start with this idea that we know that fathers are theoretically welcomed at most traditional parenting or education classes. And what we also know is that fathers don't typically attend at least extension programming, parenting program. And then we know that there is existing curricula that do not address fathers' unique challenges, such as basic needs, housing. I know this is your wheelhouse. Housing or employment is your wheelhouse. The rights and responsibilities around custody laws and the judicial system, and the awareness of their importance in their own children's life. And we knew that there was a critical need in finding out what are the barriers? Why are we not attracting more men, more fathers to our classes? And so that's when our group of researchers decided to go ahead and put together this statewide needs assessment. And so today, I'm really going to talk to you about the background on fatherhood, the needs assessment process and the methods we use. We're going to review the results, and then we're going to look at some resources. And throughout this presentation, I'm going to pose some rhetorical questions. So I'm going to talk to you about some things. And if you want to put anything in the chat, please feel free. And or just there are things to get you thinking. So for the purposes of our study, I want us all to have the same understanding. We know that what it means to be a father, right? But there's a wide variety of people who are considered dads, and they're not all included in our report for today. But for the sake of acknowledging their importance, I'm going to emphasize their roles. Any man in a caregiving role, uncle, grandfather, any man in a caregiving role, with man being loosely defined, can be fathers or father figures, grandfathers, transgender parents, gay fathers, adoptive fathers, incarcerated fathers, basically anyone who identifies as a father. And it's important that we understand this. And the goal of our work is to focus on anyone who identifies as a father. But for purposes of our report, who we were able to talk with during this needs assessment, the men who I will be representing in this research study are men from Wisconsin in caregiving roles. They have primary or shared custody, or they're non-custodial dads. Some of them are currently or previously have been incarcerated. Some of them previously partnered with women, primarily most of them, although not all in this study. Some of them are adoptive dads or stepfathers. And they're fathers of children of all ages. And we had fathers with multiple races and ethnicities, although mostly white, but we also had Black and Latino dads represented in this study. So this is one of those rhetorical questions I was talking about. What does successful fatherhood look like? Landon started out with a survey saying, how many of you needs father specific? And as I develop more into this topic, maybe some things will come to mind. But this is rhetorical. You can put it in chat or you can just think about it. What does successful fatherhood look like? And I want to demonstrate here. Let's hear from dads. This is kind of a grounding video. I hope that I have optimized the sound, but let's just see if you can hear it. Landon, I would like a thumbs up if.
My father
Yep.
was a child of his generation. I remember he was around, but very absent. He was around quite a bit. He worked really, really hard for everything that he had. He died when I was 6 months old. He was one of those dads that uh, didn't express outwardly in words very much.
We never had a close relationship, never did anything together specifically.
He did a lot of things right, but we didn't realize that he was always a rock that we could always depend on in our household. Growing up, I don't know. There was like a void in my life. We had just throw football back and forth. He would teach me how to like throw a spiral. It's one of my fondest memories. He worked almost 80 hours a week for 15 odd years. So I didn't really get to spend a whole lot of time with my dad. I was always craving his approval. Just he's not the most verbal person. He's not the most social person. So he never said it. Always thinking that, well, because I give you the necessities of life, you should know it by osmosis.
My mother was primarily the one who gave me advice.
And I remember actually one night like watching him hit my mom, and that's the last time that I really remember him being around.
And when I was 12, I found out that I was the product of an affair.
My sense of person and who I was kind of ripped away from me.
I had, I guess, anger issues when I was younger.
I never had a father, so I just kind of had to figure stuff out on my own.
I didn't realize until recently that was all rooted in my father being absent.
So I definitely believe it affected my ability to raise my children in that aspect.
When I had children, I really wanted to be a good dad. I don't think anybody has the manual on fatherhood on really what to do.
So I was born. I just feel free.
I worked hard at not disappointing them, even though I did.
Luckily, I had a very good example to follow. But so many times we get off track and we don't follow that example.
So that could be really excited to have kids so I can fulfill that role.
We have a wonderful family where we're really involved and communicate well with each other.
The strength lies in being transparent. Be there, be honest, and be the type of person you want your son to grow up to be.
It's not always being really great provider, but it's really about spending time.
When you don't feel like doing what they want to do it anyway.
Be creative and give them a challenge.
The biggest thing I take away is being there counts.
So that is our grounding. Oopsie, just a second. Let me move to the next. Our grounding video. And we found that video after we did our research on Wisconsin fathers, but what those men articulated in that video completely represent the data that we discovered while analyzing our data from the needs assessment. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at I'm sorry, I saw the word overview and it was making me think I was going back. I want to give you a little overview of the state of fathers in Wisconsin. What we know is that fathers experience barriers to being fully engaged in their children's lives. And yet, dads make a unique and important contribution to their child's development and well-being. We also know that 22% of US children live in one-parent households. And in fact, that statistic is higher in the state of Wisconsin. And 10% of those households are run by fathers. So fathers do need support and help. What we also know is that economically disadvantaged families are more likely to experience family complexities, such as non-marital births and father's absence. And yet, that important role that fathers make and the contribution they make in their children's lives is important. So, how can we as practitioners support fathers? And that's what we're going to get to in just a moment. So we thought, why aren't dads coming to our programming, our parenting program? And that's when we started engaging in this statewide multi-pronged needs assessment. We knew that there wasn't a current report on the needs of Wisconsin's fathers. And despite that important role that fathers play in their children's lives, we know that they just weren't showing up at parenting classes and maybe even other self-enrichment type of classes. Parenthood programs need to be matched to very specific type of father needs. And that includes things like basic needs, the basic needs of fathers, food, clothing, shelter, employment. And we need to figure out how to allow them and allocate time for their physical and mental wellness and provide them with resources for parenting. So what we did is we asked ourselves these three really big picture questions. What we wanted to know from practitioners and from the dads that participated in this needs assessment was, how do fathers define successful fatherhood? I asked you all that in the very beginning. We watched the video, but these were questions that were posed during the needs assessment. And then, like, basically, what do Wisconsin dads need the most? And importantly, what are the possible solutions? And that is how we began the needs assessment. Just to give you the skeleton view of the needs assessment, we conducted 12 interviews and conducted 6 surveys from 11 different counties throughout the state of Wisconsin. So as far north as Bayfield County and as far south as Kenosha County. And we asked service providers about the needs, the barriers, and the vision for fatherhood. But we took it further than that. We did focus groups with dads themselves. And we asked them the same types of questions about their vision of fatherhood, their needs, and what could be some possible solutions. We conducted 6 focus groups. And the focus groups contained men of all different backgrounds. And we grouped them in order to create a safe environment for them to be able to express to us their deepest concerns and or thoughts about fatherhood. And we grouped them in full custody, shared custody, non-custodial fathers, dads that were involved in the legal system in some capacity, and Latino and Spanish-speaking fathers were our grouping for our focus groups. We analyzed our data through a data jam approach where we would have 10 to 12 extension educator, faculty, or staff analyzing the data and group coding the data and coming up with these themes across all of the data. And you will see as I uncover some of that, how the themes sort of developed into very specific groups, but then they're overlapping as well. There was this huge overarching theme, and it sounds so basic, I know, but this idea that fathers want to be fathers. Even the dads that are displaced, even the dads that are unhoused or having trouble finding employment, even the dads in arrearages for child support, fathers want to be fathers. They want to be involved in their children's lives. They want to be kept informed about what is happening in their children's lives. And overwhelmingly, they want to do their best. And what we know and what we discovered is that fatherhood is a source of pride, affection, and responsibility. So as I present this information and we dig a little bit deeper, I've speckled in a bunch of the quotes because they're just so chilling and so telling. So this idea, this overarching theme of fathers want to be fathers. So one of the quotes, and my kids, they're my everything. I wouldn't change nothing, but I would change me being there. I want to be there versus being here. So I wouldn't change nothing about them or who they are, but I'd change who I am, who I can be. And this is one of our dads that came from the legal group, focus group. I'm not going to read them all because you're going to get the slide deck and you can read them. But as we were coding the data, we created this Wordle, this word cloud. And you can see the larger words are the words that dads used the most to describe. Those were coded the most. So you can see active involvement is huge. Nurturing relationship. But some dads are unclear. How do I get that nurturing relationship? And role modeling. But folks, role modeling was interesting. It was referenced and it's highlighted as one of the bigger descriptors for how fathers define successful fatherhood. But it wasn't just because they want to be a good role model, which we know, and unequivocally, the data shows us that fathers want to be a good role model, but it also was indicated in that they had a lack of role modeling. Many fathers had a lack of role modeling. So when you have a lack of role modeling, how do you know what to do? So the overarching theme, fathers want to be fathers. They want to be involved. 4 key themes emerged, and they were around basic life needs and resources. This is where I think there's a parallel with us. We work in parenting education, but we also do financial literacy education and extension. We also do education around the legal system, and we work with incarcerated individuals and fathers. But that basic life needs and resources, the parenting support was a theme that bubbled up. The systemic barriers to fatherhood. And when Landon did that quiz or that poll with you guys, we're going to look at what this means, the systemic barriers to fatherhood, and how we as practitioners view dads who are dealing with hardships like basic life needs. And then, of course, the challenges and consequences related to the legal system. And that impacts everything. So I'm going to drill down just a little bit with these, but basic life needs and resources. What we discovered is that there is economic demand on fathers. That breadwinner role, or having to pay child support, or needing money and jobs and transportation. We know these things are important for all individuals, but they're extremely hard and can be barriers for dads having strong nurturing relationships with their children when they're having all of these other basic life needs and resource issues. So I said I'm going to speckle in here. Let's just take a look at another one of the quotes. My daughter not having a stable place to come home is also also interferes with my parenting time, because we can't sit in my car in the cold winter and just hang out and chill. We can go to the movies for shelter, but what about the days where she wants to pack a bag and spend the night? Now we're at the hotel, and it's weird. Like there isn't no housing for a man that's single and doesn't have a family. And it's so sad when you think, that overarching theme, I said, fathers want to be fathers, but an unhoused father trying to maintain visitation and spending time with his child is an extreme barrier. So another father talks about the idea that my daughter, I don't see her all day, because when I get out in the morning, she's sleeping. When I come home at night, she's sleeping. So I think that's something one would want to have more time. And this is in reference of dads having to work 2 jobs to cut it, to pay the bills, and then having employment be the barrier that helps them have that strong and nurturing relationship with their child. We know that parenting support is important for all parents, but fathers are no different. Fathers and community partners describe the need for parenting support, including education around very specific topics. Role modeling, I talked about that earlier, navigating the unique circumstances when you're involved in a co-parenting relationship. And then even some fathers didn't even know where to find support. And it's another place in which I think we can parallel, because I'm going to give you some resources that you can give to your clientele around other supports that Extension can offer. And just as all of us as practitioners working with clientele, knowing where we can point people is half the battle. Like, we are a resource agency, just as you all are as well. Community partners expressed that fathers may need support around general parenting, just things like handling meltdowns and potty training or setting up routines. And you can see one of the service providers says, quote, "It seems like fathers have the hardest time with structure in a home, routine in a home, a bedtime routine, that kids brush their teeth." So that was from a service provider. Another quote, one dad saying, "For me, I guess the most challenging thing with me, I've got my youngest girls, and it's a little challenging at times in their shoes as females, and try to understand them as females, because it's tough for me. Because when I was growing up, it was just me and my two brothers, and all my cousins are boys. So it's kind of tough getting a feel for the way of things. And what we understand is that some dads express this idea, this self-consciousness about raising daughters when they did not grow up with a mother figure or a female presence in the home. Remember, I said we group these into themes. This theme, I think, is super important for any practitioner. And as we disseminate these findings to other groups, not just in forward services, but other groups, the systemic barrier to fatherhood, gosh, what does that mean? It includes many things like attitudes and gender norms that impact fatherhood. Fathers being underserved in program development and design. Like, shouldn't we have the father voice involved in how we approach our work? Service provider or program challenges, hiring and workplace. How many men do we have in our industry? This idea of co-parent gatekeeping or even maternal gatekeeping. So in households where there are mother and father, but mother holds all the information about doctor's appointments or schooling. So this maternal gatekeeping. And then even just the systemic inequities that exist around parenting and or mothers and fathers. So when we get into the systemic barriers to fatherhood, let's take a look at a couple of these quotes. Society wants to look at the money and what are you doing for the kids? And we're human. We have needs as well. And I think that gets overlooked sometimes. And I'm sure from the mom side too, everybody falls into that. But having support around that, I saw that as a barrier early on. It felt really hard. And this was from a fella who was participating in our shared custody focus group. And then they told us over and over again that having peer support groups or having opportunities for dads to engage together would be very helpful to them. And you can see that in society, we have opportunities for moms to get together, but less opportunities for dads to get together to talk about the challenges and joys of parenting. As this dad says, it's not yet cool and manly to participate in fatherhood programs. And we felt that sentiment from a lot of dads. So even, do they know about the program? And then how are we creating environments that are friendly for dads and not just mother-centric, but also friendly for fathers. So I said throughout, we're going to speckle a few of these rhetorical type of questions. But one of the most common systemic barriers to fatherhood is the stereotypes that are perpetuated through media portrayals of dads who are uninvolved. You've seen the commercial with the dad holding the baby, and the baby might have gone to the bathroom or needs a diaper change. But this uninterested or incompetent or bumbling dad trope. It's echoed in television, it's echoed in commercials. How can we push back against this and create a new vision of what fathers can be and already are? And you might not notice it, but I dare you to watch now and see if you know, oh yeah, that Patty Carroll, she was talking about that, because I guarantee you will see it repeated on television, this bumbling dad trope. And awareness is key. So as we know that this is part of it and we want to elevate fatherhood, then we can start looking at those things with more of a discerning eye and with a way to combat that. So finally, the systemic barriers to fatherhood. Throughout the focus groups, fathers described a variety of systemic inequalities that serve as barriers for them fulfilling their fatherhood role, including but not limited to racism, mass incarceration, and intergenerational inequality. So once faced with these systemic inequalities, it's almost impossible for them to overcome these barriers and to find resources and people who are invested in their reintegration. And this is especially true of fathers of color who've gone through the justice system. So this quote, our oldest daughter is also multicultural, and we live in a community that is surrounded by Native American tribes, but the community here does not accept Native American people as having rights. And so we're always struggling with those cultural barriers as well. And it's something that we have to deal with because we can't move to an area that is more culturally diverse. So it's almost like there's handcuffs. And so as practitioners, how can we have this information and provide our services in ways that are open to the real challenges that fathers face? And then finally, this challenge and consequences related to the legal system. There are issues, dads, even if it's just a touch point with the legal system because of divorce or co-parenting or custody issues, just navigating that legal system. We had a program last night, a Focus on Fathers program, and just very technical questions around, gosh, can I put in a new order? Can I petition? Can I see my child more? So just navigating that legal system, even if it's as benign as divorce, let alone real more significant legal issues. The incarceration and feelings of hopelessness and feeling like how this idea of how do I build my relationship with my child when I'm away from my child, and even just supporting a father's reentry. And this is also an intersection for us. So when men or women are reentering, where do we come in as practitioners, and how I'm concerned about building a father-child relationship? You guys might be interested in finding jobs, but you can see how this intersects, because if they don't have jobs, if they're unhoused, how are they building that relationship? One father talked about navigating the legal system, and he said it would have been great to have a mentor or somebody that could kind of guide you through it and say, I know you're going to have these moments of real frustration. If you have an email or something, don't send it to the attorney, send it to me and I'll help you with that. Because what they were discovering is even an email to the attorney costs money. And this was the issue they were having, right? So I want to pose this rhetorical question. If legal systems continue to be punitive, once an incarcerated father has served his sentence, then it is easy to see how recovery can feel impossible, right? Jump through this hoop, jump through that hoop, and it feels punitive to them. So some fathers in these situations may just remove themselves from their children's lives because of that hopeless feeling, despite the hurt of doing so. And because we have created systems that do not allow an offender to reintegrate successfully and to contribute meaningfully once restitution has been served, ultimately, listen, I think this line is profound. If we do not see incarcerated men as fathers, how can they? They made a mistake. They didn't give up their title, daddy. Just saying. So those are some rhetorical questions to ask ourselves. I didn't know if I wanted to leave this slide in or not, but I did, because what we found, and we're going to be doing a little bit more research around this, is the difference between our service providers, that data we recouped from service providers, and dads. And one of the things, the community partners that we talked to in surveys and in interviewing, they did not report social connection or father social emotional needs. The dads did. The dads self-identified mental health, mental wellness, and the need for social connections. And we didn't get that from the service providers. So that's interesting. And as you go out and work with men who might also identify as fathers, keep that in the back of your mind. And then also, fathers want to be fathers. That overarching theme we told you about, it came up, you guys, in every single conversation with fathers, and only one community partner. So I don't know if it's not a safe space. I don't know if when we are intersecting with fathers in the care of the services we provide, if we're not, I don't know why that would be. But only one community partner acknowledged that, yeah, dads want to be involved. And then more dads than partners brought up issue of having a lack of role models. Fathers self-identified this idea of not having a positive role model as an impact to how they father. Okay, now we're into the meat and bones, and I'm winding down, so just bear with me because this is a long slide. But here are some recommendations to all of us who serve men and women, mums and dads, right? We know that the landscape of parenting in Wisconsin can positively be impacted using findings from our report, but so can your interactions in whatever service you provide with dads. These recommendations cannot be successfully carried out or sustained for long-term without strong partnerships among each other. That's why we are interested in coming to different service providers and providing information about what we're learning around fatherhood. So recommendation number one, we are in the process of disseminating these findings cross-sector, and I'm going to give you a link where you can navigate the entire report, which is beautiful and easy to read. And then you will be able to use the report to disseminate either the executive summary or information from the report. We suggest that community partners facilitate discussions with people within your organization, within your office pool, within the people you work with. Just start conversations around what this report has to offer. Talk about others about father-related initiatives or the importance of valuing fathers. This report needs to be translated and shared with a wide variety of community partners, including, and of course not limited to, directors of family serving agencies, parents, judges, family courts, sheriffs, law enforcement, government officials, and even policymakers. And Extension is in the process of doing that. Our second recommendation, creating and facilitating peer support for fathers. And this, it doesn't just have to be around parenting. It could be around housing, employment. It could be around anything, but creating and facilitating peer support for fathers will create social connections which is a protective factor. And it helps people and families thrive and stay resilient in the times of hardship. Yet one of the biggest resources lacking for most fathers is a sense of community with others. And we recommend that family serving agencies work to provide an environment where fathers can foster social connections and facilitate peer support of each other. The most prevalent opportunity in this report across both fathers and the community partners is the desire for fathers to learn from each other. Hey, what did you do in that situation? Recommendation number 3, hire and engage more men in family serving professions. So for people to feel welcome and included, family serving organizations must have staff that reflect the diversity of the populations we serve. We know this, right? Including fathers in family serving, men in family serving roles in the industries that we work. Recommendation number 4, engage mothers and other maternal figures in this fatherhood work, right? Bringing mothers into the fold. Empowering and supporting fathers is essential, but there are many other parenting figures that need to be part of this work as well. And then finally, recommendation number 5, changing the perceptions of the value of fathers. Remember that the bumbling trope, the father trope? The bumbling dad trope that I talked about earlier. So changing that perception and the value of fathers through public awareness. More broadly, systemic change within our communities and culture in which fathers live must be a priority. But it can start as easy as you saying, hey, I think dads are very valuable. I believe dads are very valuable. As I wind down a little bit, because I think the quotes are so rich and they really tell the story of the data. One of the fellows said, maybe I'm here because somebody else has to hear my story and understand the situation and do better, because there was no one there to help me, nobody to motivate me, nobody to coach me, nobody to direct me. So hopefully one of the guys from the group will hear the footnotes of what has been said. And that theme of not having that role model was loud and clear. So rhetorical, although I would love for you to write it down or put it in the chat. What can I do? Perhaps you are the director of an agency and you will call a meeting to discuss fatherhood. Or perhaps you will decide to talk with a coworker, just one-on-one, about father-related initiatives. What can we do to bring more dads into the fold and create something that is very appealing for dads? Another starting point might be to speak up even in small ways when you notice fathers being excluded, stereotyped, or otherwise devalued. Remind people around you that fathers are more than babysitters or financial providers. They're integral to our society. If you are a family service provider, make small steps towards including fathers. Try things out, talk with fathers, keep what works over time, and adapt. Think about this as a marathon, not a sprint. I always like to do a shout out because this is a huge group of people who have worked on this needs assessment, but also who continue with our fatherhood group. I'm open to questions and I'm going to stop sharing so I can find my chat. Stop sharing. And yeah, I'm gonna put into the chat a link where you can find the full report and a bunch of resources around parenting education. We are currently doing a study on peer support, and I will get information out to you all about our peer support because one of the classes has to do with basic needs, and we're going to see how that goes and if it's something that can be replicated with other agencies.
Awesome. Patty, thank you so much for this, I think overlooked topic. It's something that, as you said, affects, it's kind of a domino effect that I think is kind of invisible at times. So I really appreciate your deep dive into all of the issues. Um, while we have a few people put their questions into chat, and I've got a few questions for you. I was wondering, maybe we could do something a little bit different here.
Mhm.
I want to ask a question of our participants today. I think it's an interesting opportunity because we have a wide variety of types of partners here. I'm kind of curious what all of you do to talk to fathers about fatherhood, kind of touching on um, some of the slides you had at the end there, what we can do, how we do it. If anyone wants to put their an answer to that, how do you talk to the people you serve about fatherhood? Or if you do, put that into the chat while I just ask a few questions here. And if you have additional questions, also put them in the chat and I'll cover them. But I'm curious with your study, Patty, if you notice any differences in needs between rural and urban areas. I know it's Wisconsin's is such a huge state and covers a wide variety of demographics and locations. What are there differences and what are some overlaps?
Mhm. That is an excellent question. And when we were putting our parameters on the study, we thought it was really important to group the fathers in like circumstances. So like I said, custody, non-custody, partial custody, in legal system, so that they had commonality. And this was during COVID. So we conducted the focus groups via Zoom. And what we did not do, and we had a lot of discussion around it, was having urban versus rural, just that being a common denominator. But that we did not study this study that way. But we are, it's like 2.0, we are looking at other ways to serve fathers and if urban versus rural will be different. But Landon, what I can say is that we know that children are, it sounds counterintuitive, but children are more at risk in rural, children who lack resources are more at risk in rural settings than in urban settings, because in urban settings they can get resources or have access to resources, where in rural settings they're isolated and they don't have access to resources. So we know that's true. And we have been working with the Urban League in Madison, and we are working with the Urban League in Milwaukee. And there are resources for fathers in both those urban areas.
Interesting. We have something in the chat here that I'll just read verbatim. We run a purchase and repair loan program for low-income workers. They can be fathers or mothers. Most fathers come in very reluctant to ask for help. They also need to be less than 150% FPL. Oftentimes, dads are making more money, and in return, they don't qualify for much assistance. It's exhausting to be constantly told no. We offer 2 loans throughout the year and can go to families who are over income, which may help those single dads. There's a lot to unpack there, from asking for help or feeling that it's futile to ask for help, and then the availability and the constant rejection that you sometimes that people can sometimes feel.
Yeah, there is a lot to unpack there. And what we know is this, when you say they're reluctant to come in, that corresponds with what we're saying about other programming. And I'm saying for fathers. So it is interesting, and we're trying to break that norm. And so one of the things I would say, Nikki, is thinking about, yeah, it's exhausting saying no, but we're also looking at environments. Are our environments friendly to fathers? Is our marketing materials, do they depict men or, like, and I don't know about your marketing stuff, but at least for parenting, we've sort of re-established how we even parenting that's open to both men and women, mothers and fathers. We are now being very inclusive with the language we use, with the photos we use, trying to create environments that are friendly to both mothers and fathers. So maybe that's one thing to think about. And then also just this idea of empowering both men and women who we serve, in whatever capacity. So for me, it's the efficacy of parenting. But for you all, it's like, gosh, how can I pay my loan, or I need this transportation. I can't have a broken car. I need to get to work. It's a cycle.
I'm a little reticent to mention this just because I don't talk a lot of personal stuff on here, but I was very struck by your slide about the depiction of fatherhood in pop culture and just what we're saturated with. And I have a background a little bit in that and examining fatherhood through pop culture. And what I find always kind of fascinating is, I think the term might be meta messaging, even if it's not intended, where, especially in comedy and sitcoms, they're aiming for a laugh and not really aware or interested in what's being communicated in service of a laugh. And oftentimes on sitcoms, family sitcoms in particular, it's at the expense of the father. And what are you walking away with, your understanding of being a father or your expectations of a father? I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on how that affects one's expectation of themselves as a father, or of other fathers in societies, their role in society.
It's overwhelming. That slide that I show does resonate with a lot of people, and it actually resonates with more men than women because they feel it. What happens when you are inundated with this idea that fathers are incompetent or merely babysitters or, incapable, you can start to internalize that, and it does affect. But yet it is the furthest thing from reality because dads are kind, caring, loving, and dads are different than mothers. Fathering is different than mothering. And I can get into the research around that, the rough and tumble play and the benefit of how fathers father and the difference between it. And each one is equally important to child development, but we don't emphasize how important fathers are. And in pop culture, we certainly don't demonstrate a sensitive, kind, caring, loving father. That you very rarely see. We see it, but very rarely. How do we combat that, Landon? That's a good question. And in the "What can I do" slide that I had shown, it said even just being willing to say, to bring that up in conversation, even being willing to challenge that. Or if you hear somebody repeating that bumbling dad trope, having the courage to say, I don't really agree with that. The dads I know, the fathers in my life, the men I know are very competent. They're more than a babysitter. Or even for all of us, I caught myself then when I would say, to somebody, "Are you babysitting today?" I will never say that again, because when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
When I realized, gosh, am I contributing to that? Yeah.
I'm curious too how much that contributes to self-exclusion when it comes to this reluctance or reticence to ask for help. If their expectation of fatherhood is at a certain place because of it being demonstrated to them throughout their life, do you find that contributes to why they don't engage, why they don't seek the assistance?
We do. There are many barriers, and that being one of them. Other barriers are just not being father friendly. The other big recommendation, remember, was having fathers or men be part of the process of deciding what is it that dads need. Overwhelmingly in our report, they want opportunities for peer support, dads learning from dads, men learning from men, having an opportunity to talk without having the educator or the expert come in and tell them.
Mhm.
They want a facilitated dialogue.
Mhm. Mhm. What do you find? Because I had written down like an example of what a father's voice in that development could look like. How do you how does one differentiate, just the male point of view versus, the father's point of view? What, on a practical level, what would you say would be a good way to start to integrate what the father's voice is into that sort of representation or development?
That's a really good question too. I think there's a couple of models that exist. So I'm thinking about, for example, in Head Start, in early Head Start, there's an advisory board, user of advisory board. So the parents whose children go to early Head Start, they bring some of them in as an advisory board to sort of help map out what they need as parents of the children in early Head Start. So an extension, we are thinking it's a little bit complicated now that we're part of the UW system, UW-Madison, but we are looking at how can we hear from in a very authentic way and implement versus just, the focus group. How can dads be more part of what it is we provide? And so that advisory board model is one thing. And then, we have there's also another model, a train the trainer. So, for example, master gardeners or other situations in which people come to the class, they learn about the class. And we've been toying with this idea of our peer support, offering training to fathers who want it so that they can manage a peer support in their local community through training from Extension. But we're looking at funding models and different things like that. So there are some models for us to really think through that.
We have just 2 more minutes here. Patty, I hope we can snag you for just a few extra minutes. We have someone, Nikki, said she would like to hop on real quick just to give her opinion. Do you mind if we have her jump on?
Absolutely, I would love it.
Nikki, are you there? I feel like I'm on a call-in show.
She's got to unmute.
Oh, yeah. She says she's calling in through her phone. I hope that it could connect to audio.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can you guys hear me now?
yes, we can hear you. Hi, Nikki.
Okay. I was trying unsuccessfully. Thank you so much. And I know you guys are really limited. Thanks for this information. I think it's super important to give those dads some support because I'm always screaming from the rooftops. Like there's so much. They roll out the red carpet for mothers. And I think moms already have that connection with their children. And I know not everybody is built with those maternal instincts, but dads, they already get ripped off 9 months with their children. So I think the moms, when they're in a relationship together, right, they have this complacency. I can do it all. I have to do it all. He can't do it. I can handle it all. And then suddenly there's a separation, there's a disagreement, and now they're in separate households. And these fathers are like, oh, wait, she used to do it. And she's still going, I can do it all. He never wanted to help. He never was there. And I think we need to change the women's perspective and their narrative as well to say, wait a minute, you have the responsibility to cultivate those relationships with these dads and keep those connections going because you already have one. So give them some space to earn that trust and that love and respect that you just automatically get as a mother. So thank you for allowing me to share.
Yeah. I'm also hearing there, Patty, if you want to comment, a certain amount of respectable accountability, like raising those expectations a little bit of like, we'll give you the space to, be a father, be part of this, but also, it's expected of you to do that to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Nikki, that is one of the recommendations. If you click on the link, or, I just go to UW-Madison Division of Extension Fatherhood, it will come up, the Fatherhood report. But one of the recommendations was to get mothers involved in this and to educate mothers, because also dads parent differently. And so if a dad is more apt to let a child kind of struggle or cry and figure it out on their own, research shows that dads are more likely to let a child struggle and figure it out, where a mother might be more likely to try to help solve the problem. And guess what? Each is important, but children learn so much from struggling through a problem. And so for a mother, if you're in a co-parenting relationship and your child is crying and the mom wants to run and take care of it, but the dad seems a little bit, it's a natural way of fathering, and it's appropriate, and it's actually good in circumstances to allow for a child to struggle or figure it out on their own. And so that's just a little nuance, but yeah, educating moms, like, it is different. And when you come home, your house might look different than if you were carrying, but or the child's hair or the matching outfits or whatever. And that's all part of that bumbling trope, that dad trope. But it's okay, and dads can figure it out, and their way might be different than your way.
But they need them both. So I appreciate all this work that you guys are doing and the space that you've given us today. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're so
Thank you,
welcome.
Nikki. Really appreciate it. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up here. I just want to take a moment to thank Patty for being here. If you have an extra second, you can fill out a little bit of feedback about these sessions. They really help us to shape our future topics. This will be included in the PDFs that you get. You can also find us on social media for all of our other resources. Patty, is there anything we didn't cover that you'd like to before we head out?
Nope, I think we're good. I go to the website, refer your fathers to our parenting classes. That would be great. But I appreciated the platform. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I highly recommend everyone check out the links I'll put in the email in the follow-up materials. And Patty, thank you again for being here. Everyone, thank you for spending your afternoon with us. We will see you all next month with another topic, which we'll be in touch about very soon. Enjoy your lunch, enjoy your day, enjoy the rest of July.
Summer.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.